Article 50. Now, what does article number 50 says? Article number 50, in fact, speak about the separation of judiciary from executive in public services. So there was a question in this year's mains exam. The question was constitutionally guaranteed judicial independence. Constitutionally guaranteed judicial independence is prerequisite for democracy. This was the question. And what will you write for this question as an answer? Read the question multiple times. What kind of idea you get? Please let me know this. Constitutionally guaranteed judicial independence is prerequisite for democracy. How will you start writing the answer? What will you write? Constitutionally guaranteed judicial independence is prerequisite for democracy. Comment. This was the question. Something is blinking here and there, isn't it? When you see this question, you are not totally getting into idea. Tell me, what will you write? See, for this question, first you need to understand about what is democracy. Then you need to write about how democracy is connected to judicial independence. Then you should write about how judicial independence is safeguarded by the Constitution of India. Why did I discuss this question here is because article number 50 provides for judicial independence. Why? Judiciary should be separated from executive. What does this mean? Judicial independence. So one of the provision in the Constitution which provides for judicial independence is article number 50. Isn't it? So the question here is that you should write about the constitutional provisions provided for judicial independence, and you need to connect it with a democracy. This is the magic of this question. So a lot of aspirants, after writing their prelims, mains exam, they have said that, sir, we are not going, we were not getting a very good idea about what needs to be written as part of this answer. Sir, the first point you will have to make for this particular question is that what is democracy? Democracy is a system of government for the people, by the people, and of the people, which you know. Isn't it? Now, how democracy is getting connected to judicial independence? Sir, democracy also is fully meaningful once it is having a division of power. There is a judiciary, there is an executive, and there is a legislature. Democracy is meaningful once and only if the separation of power is true in sense. So judiciary should be devoid of any kind of legislative and executive interference, or at the best, at least executive interference. Separation of judiciary from executive. So you should write that democracy is meaningful once and only if there is a separation of power, and this separation of power is guaranteed in the Constitution in certain provisions. Number one, in fundamental rights itself, you have article number 13, which provides for the power of judicial review. Isn't it? The judiciary can review the actions of the executive as well as the legislature, which is judicial independence. You can even write about article number 50, which provides for the separation of judiciary and executive in public services. What does this mean? See, earlier, before 1973, I am speaking about, earlier, there was a district magistrate. Okay, there was a district magistrate, and this district magistrate was performing the judicial function as well as the executive function. Now, in 1973, getting or taking the source of article number 50, the CRPC 1973 has provided for the separation of this. That is, now you have judicial powers with the district magistrate under the authority of High Court. The executive power is performed by the district collector, who is an IAS. Getting this? Earlier, these two functions were performed by the district magistrate. Now, the district magistrate performs under the authority of High Court, and the district magistrate performs only the judicial powers. The executive powers are performed by the bureaucracy, that is the district collector. Why? Because the Supreme Court has said that article number 50 is basic structure of Indian Constitution. So can you violate basic structure? No. So there should be a separation between the judiciary and the executive. So the basic structure was spelled by the Supreme Court in 1973. So get connection. The CRPC 1973 has separated what? The judicial and the executive wing of the public office. Okay. So the public office, that is the executive, should not have any judicial function. If it has a judicial function, then that is going to be the violation of the DPSP, that is article number 50. Fine. So can you ever imagine that the judiciary, or you just take into consideration, you just think about the situation that Prime Minister Modi, he is an executive. Now Modi, or Mr. Modi, has got a chance to appoint the judges of the Supreme Court, or even if he has got a power to select the judges of the Supreme Court, then what he will do? He will call his dear friends, the judges of the Supreme Court. Sir, there is a vacancy. If you are very close to me, I just want rupees 100 crore and you will get a seat as the judge of the Supreme Court. Is it possible? No. And Mr. Modi will say that all cases against me as well as my party members needs to be disposed. I will give you a seat as the judge of Supreme Court. Be it possible? Should it be possible? No. That will sabotage the entire democratic setup of the country. Because the executive will say that judiciary, we are one, isn't it? We are part of the government. And if you support me, I will also support you. I will increase the salary. I will give you all kind of privileges. I will give you flat accommodation, free accommodation. What kind of facilities we will provide you. Please do some mercy towards me. No, sir, the judiciary needs to be independent. Isn't it? So that is how you need to approach this question. So first you need to write about what is democracy, how is it getting connected to judiciary, and then you will have to write for the constitutional provisions also. Okay, you can write about judicial review, you can write about Article 50, you can write about Article 32, you can write about Article 226, you can even write about the Supreme Court Collegium. Isn't it? The Collegium was actually a replacement. Earlier, the executive used to appoint the judges of the Supreme Court. Even now, the appointment is done by the executive, but the recommendation is given by the Collegium. Collegium is the judges itself. So is it done by the executive now? No, the selection is done by the Collegium. So the judiciary itself does the selection for the judiciary. This is what is the Supreme Court Collegium. The senior most 4 judges, they constitute the Collegium and they are doing the selection process for themselves. Isn't it? So these are done for what? for maintaining the judicial independence. N number of provisions, say for example, the salaries and allowances of the judges of the Supreme Court and the High Court, they are charged on Consolidated Fund of India. There is no voting on this expense, isn't it? Charged expenditure, you would have heard about charged expenditure. There is no requirement of voting, which means again, it is independent, isn't it? Independent. How can you remove the judges of the Supreme Court? Can the executive remove them? No. Who will remove? The removal is done by the executive, but only on the recommendation of the parliament. You would have heard about the Judges Inquiry Act of 1968, which says that the parliament should pass a resolution with a special majority under Article 368 for the removal of the judges of Supreme Court as well as the High Court. Why the parliament? Sir, in parliament, you have the ruling as well as the opposition. If you say that the executive can do this, then the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers will say that this particular judge is dangerous, remove him. Is it possible? No. The recommendation of the parliament is necessary for the executive to remove the judges of the Supreme Court. See, the removal will be done by the president, but only with the recommendation of the parliament, not on the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. Why? We need judicial independence. So you can write a number of things as part of this answer. Only thing is that you need to connect different parts. You start from article number 13, it is fundamental right. You come to DPSP, article 50. You go to Judiciary, article number 124 to 147, the Supreme Court. You go to even High Court, article number 226. Isn't it? So the same question covers entire constitution. The single question covers entire understanding of your constitution. That is going to be the challenge. Even the basic of your constitution gets covered. You need to understand democracy is all about separation of powers. Basic things. Basic things to the most advanced level from the single question will give you 15 marks. This is how UPSC will frame questions for mains. Okay, it's not as easy as everybody says after the results are out. No, sir, it is not at all easy.